Hello and welcome to Winchester Now, our news programme here on Winchester Radio. I'm Mary Blaxland. Stay with us for some of the stories in the city this week. Plus, we talk shoes and speak to Winchester's first woman bus driver. Winchester Radio. More than 200 children have been helped this Christmas with the gift of a toy, thanks to a local church. The Vineyard Church ran a toy fair earlier this month and appealed for donations of gifts for families struggling this festive season. Church volunteers say they were overwhelmed by generous donations and were able to help an extra 75 children this year. They all had a new toy and some second-hand toys too. The Salvation Army has also thanked everyone who gave to their present appeal, which was larger than ever this year. They also provided around 120 Christmas meals to people around the city. Heavy rain and gale-force winds are battering Winchester with the arrival of Storm Gerrit. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for the area for the rest of the week. People are being urged to only travel by train if necessary this week, as landslip repairs continue on the line to London. The work is taking place at Brookwood, with engineers needing access to 2 of the 4 tracks. South Western Railway says services between Woking and Basingstoke will be severely reduced until the end of Friday, affecting services from Winchester to the capital. Engineering work in the Southampton area will also limit services to Brockenhurst and Poole. Customers are advised to check before travelling. Meanwhile, new enforcement cameras are being set up at the railway station. Automatic number plate recognition will spot drivers using the bus gate at the bottom of Station Hill. New road signs and markings are also being put in place, and motorists who breach the restriction will face a £70 penalty notice. Now, as a nation, we're fascinated by shoes, from designer heels to platform shoes and bother boots. Well, an exhibition at the Arc features around 70 pairs of shoes from a past to the present, explaining how they've been shaped by society. Ruth James is a social history conservator for Hampshire Cultural Trust and spoke to Winchester Radio.
We have a huge range of shoes. The oldest one is a bone skate from an archaeological period, going right through Georgian, Victorian, through to really modern day shoes, and some quite iconic shoes like the Manolo Blahniks and the Louboutins. We've got some goth boots, we've got baby shoes, we've got some World War I trench boots that were owned by an officer. We have flight boots that were worn in one, I think maybe a Lancaster bomber, I'm not sure, but they're sheepskin, huge sheepskin thigh-high boots, which were worn to keep warm. We've got cowboy boots, many shoes that cover quite a wide range of styles and uses, I suppose, really.
And for a lot of people who are going to be walking around, a lot of these shoes will bring back memories. For example, I noticed some Clarks shoes that I'm sure I used to have as a child.
Absolutely. There's quite a few makes that people recognise, like the Clarks and the Manolo Blahniks and the Louboutins. Got some Converse, which I think resonate very much with the youth. My daughter wears Converse trainers herself.
And tell me a bit about your involvement in this.
My involvement started right at the very beginning of the idea for the exhibition. I was approached by one of our then exhibition coordinators or managers, and she wanted to do an exhibition on shoes. It changed, and it became changed from one thing to another, and eventually she came up with an idea, and we went into our stores and looked for all the different types of shoes, and she asked me whether we could use these, and I would have to say yes or no with regard to the state of the shoes and how well preserved they were, and if they were going to deteriorate because of the environment that they were going to be put into. So we went through all of that and decided on the shoes that were suitable for exhibition, and then I spent months preparing them for display.
And tell me a bit about the shoes, because like you said, they go back through so many different histories and so many different eras. Where have they all come from?
I'm not actually sure where they've come from. They are all part of the collection at Hampshire Cultural Trust, but because our collecting policy now is to have objects that have a Hampshire link or a Hampshire story, before then we didn't have that collecting policy, so they could have actually come from anywhere. I suspect that quite a lot of them are Hampshire related because they're here, but they do range from all kinds of shoes. We've got some beautiful Georgian shoes. We've got some Georgian shoes that have got patterns to stop the shoes getting dirty, so you'd wear them over your shoes, but to be honest, the patterns are just as beautiful as the shoes, so I don't think they were really worn in the mud. Our shoe collection, our collection at Hampshire Cultural Trust is quite vast, and this is a small example of what we actually hold.
As a nation though, we really love our shoes, don't we, and collecting shoes.
We absolutely adore our shoes. I collect shoes, I have loads. My daughter is just discovering shoes, so we're becoming poorer by the minute. So I think it will appeal to a lot of people. I think everyone, like you said, will have a story. People are very attached to their shoes. They love their shoes, they collect their shoes, and they will see shoes that they recognise in the exhibition, and they'll be able to say, oh yeah, I had those, or my grandma had those, or, I've seen those on telly, like the Manolo Blahniks, they're from Sex and the City. So there's all these little connections that people will probably make when they come to the exhibition.
And Shoes Inside Out is a free exhibition and runs in the Gallery of the Ark until the 6th of March. A number of projects in Winchester are to get a share of nearly £500,000 from the Police and Crime Commissioner. The money from the Emerging Needs Fund is being shared between 25 groups who promote crime reduction, support victims and make a difference in local communities. Among them is the Yellow Brick Road project, which provides mentoring sessions for young people in our city. Winchester Street Reach also receives support, along with the Saints Foundation, which helps former inmates from Winchester Prison. The vintage King Alfred buses will be out and about in Winchester again on New Year's Day. The event is going ahead despite the loss of one of their vehicles in a fire earlier this month. And for one bus enthusiast, this is a very special year. Mary Curry was Winchester's first woman bus driver and celebrates 50 years since gaining her professional licence.
My mother used to take me into Farnham, where we used to live, once a week for shopping. And we broke down on the bus going in, and the driver and the conductor had so much fun and made everybody laugh. Oh, well, I was definitely going to be on the buses.
But your family weren't too sure about that to start off with.
My father said, no way, no way. But he never, fortunately, I suppose, in one sense, he never lived to see me go on the buses, so that was okay.
And tell me about the first job you had then.
Oh, as a conductress.
And what was that like to do?
Great fun. It really was, yeah, absolutely. It was cold, though, during the winter because we didn't have buses with heating in those days. And, of course, they didn't have doors. They were open-back buses. The double-deckers were, anyway.
And, of course, we don't have conductresses now. Tell me a bit about what that role involved.
Well, it involved ringing the bell when people wanted to get off. When they sat down, you used to go along, take their money for wherever they wanted to get off. Just made sure that everything was okay. So, yeah, it was great.
And was the dream always to be a driver?
No, it wasn't. I did think about it once, but then after that, when we got taken over by, well, it's Stagecoach now, but it was National Bus then, and I thought about it for a while, but then we had to work 6 months on the back as a conductress. Although we'd been a conductor for many years before that, we still had to work the 6 months before we could apply for going on the front as a driver. So when the 6 months was up, we just put in for it. So it was, as I say, great fun.
And what was it like that moment you took your first bus out as a driver?
Very, very nervous. Frightened to death that I was going to do something wrong, and I managed to get through right up until about 5 o'clock in the evening, and this was November the 7th we passed their test, and November the 11th we went out driving on our own, and it was in the evening time, and I had to do a Badger's Farm or Oliver's Battery, I can't remember. And it was when Carfax Hotel was right on the corner of Sussex Street, and I had what they call a low-geared steering bus. I'd had a go in it, but not to get it round that corner, and I got it stuck.
What happened?
Well, a lot of shunting, and I think a lot of other drivers swearing at me and everything else. I got it round there, but it was a bit hairy at the time, but we got over it.
Because they were pretty tough vehicles to drive, weren't they? Quite heavy vehicles.
Oh, yes. We didn't have many with power-assisted steering. I mean, they all are now, but not then we didn't. You had to steer it properly, otherwise you wouldn't get it round.
What was it like being a woman in sort of what had been a man's world, really?
Yes, it was. I think, to be quite honest with you, that they treated us very well. They really did. There was one or two there that were a bit against us, obviously, but even they came round in the end. So, yeah, it was okay. It was really good.
And was there a lot of training? What was the training like?
The training, that was fantastic. We had 4 weeks of training, and we had to go up to Basingstoke for that. When I say we went up to Basingstoke, the driving instructor brought the bus down to us, picked us up, and then we went out on the road. And that was, for 4 weeks, Monday to Friday. And then when we passed, that was it.
And then after that, you carried on working for the company for a long time, didn't you?
Yes, I went into the garage then, and that was even better. We had loads of fun in the garage. It was really good. All the work was done, but there was a lot of laughs at the same time, if you know what I mean. It was really great fun.
And when did you finally step down from the buses?
November the 1st, 3 years ago.
And how old were you then?
80.
Was it hard to give it up?
It wasn't hard to give up. I found that I missed the company more than the work when I did actually give it up. But other than that, no, it was fine.
And when you look back at your career, you were a pioneer, one of the first women on the buses. When you look back at it, what are your thoughts?
I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. Definitely. I wouldn't have wanted any other job at all. That was the one.
And do you go on the King Alfred buses now when they have their running days?
If I can get into town, yes, I do.
And what are your thoughts when you go on the old buses?
I think to myself, I remember this. And I remember Mrs. So-and-so getting on the bus and all things like that.
I bet the volunteers love to meet you.
Yes, I think they do. We always have a chat about buses and people and different things. Yeah, it was great.
Because there's a lot of love for the old buses, isn't there?
Yeah, oh, yes, there is. Well, yes, because they do work hard getting those buses up roadworthy. They really do. Yeah, it was very, very good. Very good.
Mary Curry speaking to Winchester Radio, and you can find out more about the running day at kingalfredbuses.org.uk. That's all from Winchester Now for this week. From the new year, our news programme will be moving to a Friday night at 7 p.m. Catch us on 94.7 FM or online. Happy New Year to all our listeners, and as we approach 2024, we leave you with some special words from some of our guests this year.
This is Councillor Angela Clear, the Mayor of Winchester, here to wish you and your families and loved ones the very best for a happy and peaceful 2024, full of love, laughter and joy.
Hello, I'm Alex Whitfield, Chief Executive of Hampshire Hospitals, and I'd like to wish you all a very happy new year, and I hope 2024 brings you lots of health, happiness and well-being.
Hiya folks, we're the cast of the Theatre Royal Winchester's panto Cinderella. Happy New Year, everyone! Happy New Year!
You've been listening to Winchester Now. We hope you've enjoyed this weekly programme from Winchester Radio. If you have a story to share with us, please let us know. You can drop us an email. We're news@winchester.radio. And you can follow us on social media platforms. Just search for Winchester Radio.
Winchester Radio.